Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome back to my playthrough of Mafia Definitive Edition. We're getting very close to the end of the game, and this right here is probably my favorite chapter in the game. It's probably this one here, and the reason for that is we got a lot of history to talk about, but also because the reason I like this chapter a lot is because this shows you the real downfall of the Salieri crime family. But anyways, let's do the mission here. If you enjoy this series, do drop a like. It's helped the series out a lot.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's great, boss.
And this is just a taste. I got a line on a whole shipment of Cameroons that have been impounded by customs. You guys are going to grab them.
You want us to boost cigars?
Something wrong with that? Customers in our nightclubs are paid through the nose for quality cigars.
Still, it seems... I don't know. Small time.
I always knew you were a smart one, Tom. Can't put nothing past you. Small time is exactly right. That's how it's supposed to look anyhow. The cigars are just a cover for a shipment of hot ice. The smuggled diamonds have been hidden in some of the boxes. The feds haven't found them yet.
We're stealing diamonds from the feds?
Don't worry about it. I've already discussed all the details with Sam here. He'll fill you in. Now, I got a meeting with the mayor at his favorite gentleman's club. Work out the details together. But I want those cigars back here before anyone catches on to the real loot. You got it?
Sure, boss.
Great. And don't drink all the good stuff while I'm gone.
You know about this?
Notice how the music in this is a bit more tense. It's not like it's like the music. It's like the developers did a really good job with this game. Like you even hear the music, the soundtrack in it. Like it's like this really tense thing. Like something bad is gonna happen.
Boss and I worked it out last night. We got a plan. Now, I'm not saying it's a good plan, but it won't get us killed. Probably.
So what then? We got a guy on the inside or something?
No. We gotta do this on our own. And it'll be rough. Cigars are packed in crates at the harbor.
Shit. The place will be crawling with security.
Yeah. Brute force won't work. Gotta play this one cool. So we're gonna steal a customs truck. Slip right in.
Christ. And kill the poor bastard driver.
No. We'll just scare him a bit. All we need is his paperwork.
Right. We don't need the hassle of dumping a body. Come on. See if we can get eyes on a customs truck down by the docks.
You alright, Tom?
Yeah. Just trying to figure out the angle is up.
What's there to figure? Boss says a job needs doing, we're doing it.
Just seems like a lot to put on the line. Even for some diamonds. If the feds pinch us, we could do serious time.
Then let's make sure we don't get caught. Right?
Yeah.
This mission shows Sam and Paulie's personality perfectly. So Paulie isn't a saint, but notice what Paulie says in that scene right beforehand. He says, we're going to steal a customs truck, and then Paulie says, we're going to kill the poor guy driving it. So Paulie doesn't want to kill the guy, the driver. And then Sam says, we don't need a body. You know, we don't need to dump a body. What Paulie is worried about the moral aspect of it. He's worried about, you know, it's wrong. You know, killing an innocent person doesn't have anything to do with just a driver. Sam, on the other hand, is just saying, while he's agreeing with Paulie, his argument is not about the morality. His argument is more about, oh, it'll cause us more heat if we have to dump a body. That's pretty much the difference on it is. So Paulie is more of a decent person. But also on top of that, you notice how aggressive Sam gets and says, you know, what's there to say? The boss says something, we gotta go do it. Like how it just zooms in on the cigars. In the definitive edition, there's a massive twist in this mission. There's a massive twist. In the original version of this mission, it wasn't you were not told what the diamonds at all in the original version. In the original version, you stole the cigars, and then you actually found diamonds inside them. But in this one, he admits that there's diamonds in there, but there's actually something else. It's a giant twist. Diamonds are hidden in cigar crates somewhere in the federal customs impound. Customs are basically where they're coming into the country. So when something is coming into the country, it's going to go through customs.
Here for the job stashed down near the harbor. If either of yous need something special, go see Vinny.
All I need is a stiff drink.
For Christ's sakes, Paulie, just lay off for one night, please.
Good luck tonight, Tom. I wish I could be out there with you. Sada invited me for dinner on Sunday. Although I'm sure this is news to you. I look forward to it.
You need something?
Why'd I need a reason to come bum gums with you?
You're one of the good ones, Tom. God is going to smile on me.
There's some pretty important notes that you can actually find in this mission. Very important to the storyline. And the newspaper that you find in this mission is very important historically wise.
The boss says I gotta quit sleeping here. Get my own place. Guess he's right. All said and done.
Risky business tonight, Tom. Take whatever you need. Remember when you got made? Shaking down stores, whacking small-time punks. Feels a long time ago, huh?
The job don't change, Vinny. One dead guy is the same as the next.
Enjoy it. All my life, I wanted to be one of the big guys. And that's us now. We're living the dream, Tom. It don't get better. Never forget that. Back when I sided with Salieri, I lost a lot of friends. They said he wouldn't last a year, but I knew he'd bring it home one day. They don't say much now. You put most of them in a box. Our guys on the force say they come in. I'm a Norman. Untouchable, they think. Not taking green from anyone. Everyone's got their price. Even if it's the price of a bullet.
About Norman. Norman is the detective that Tommy's actually talking to in the diner. That's how he finds out about Norman. That he's an uncorruptible cop. He's a cop that always does the right thing, no matter how much money is thrown at him. Let me just check. There's a newspaper in this mission. I just want to check really quick if it's in here, because this newspaper is very important.
Come on. Let's go.
Also, there's some pretty big foreshadowing here. Notice how Sam's is the one who sits in the back seat here. The guy in there's a lot of symbolism here. The guy that's sitting in the back seat is the guy who ends up killing people a lot of times. That's why a lot of gangsters, they don't want to sit in the front seat. It's irony. Most people in real life actually want to sit. People are civilians. Usually, everybody wants to sit in the front seat, but gangsters never want to sit in the front seat. They always want to sit in the back.
Will you relax? You're making me nervous playing around with your piece like that.
Sorry. Just got a lot on my mind is all. That's so. I'd have figured there wasn't enough room up there.
Go ahead and laugh, assholes. You guys are done. I don't think I got plans. But you're wrong. You got big plans.
Yeah? Spill it then. What are you working on?
Been thinking about hitting up a savings and loan downtown.
You want to rob a bank?
Sure. I've been casing the place for months. I got it all worked out. I just need a few guys I can count on to watch my back.
Robbing a bank, that's a little out of our league.
We're robbing the fucking feds, ain't we? What's the difference?
Salieri's the goddamn difference, you nitwit. The Don sent us to steal these cigars. Ain't no way he sanctions a bank job.
Well, then we don't tell them.
You want to step out on the Don?
No. Not really. We can cut him in after we make the score. He'll be bent, sure, but he won't stay mad once he gets his share.
I don't know, Paulie.
Yeah,
About this, remember what I said is that when a gangster makes money in, any of his own ways, he has to give the boss a cut. Even if the boss does no work, even if the boss has nothing to do with that job whatsoever, they have to pay tribute to the boss. They have to give the boss a cut. They don't, that is almost always death.
fucking know. You do what you want. I won't say nothing. Yeah, I owe you that much. But Salieri? When he finds out you're going behind his back, you'll be planted right next to Morello. You ask me, there ain't no haul worth that.
He's right, Paulie. You bring it to the Don or let it go.
Yeah. Just get to daydreaming, you know.
Wake up. We're here. Tom, you take the car. Find a customs truck and meet us near the impound. Me and Paulie, we'll go get the rest of the gear.
Right. You got your head together.
Yeah. Sober as a priest.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Hey, quit busting my balls. I'm good.
Even forgot his gun. Find and steal his customs truck. Search the, works quarter. Okay. Is that it right there? No, water supply. Looking for a customs truck. I forget what they look like. It's been 5 years since I played this game, so I'll have to remember exactly what they look like. There's one, okay.
The Lost Heaven Art Gallery welcomes you to their upcoming exhibit. Bear witness to the rise and fall of empires. Since time began,
This is really important.
fortunes of civilization have been entwined with the prosperity or decline of great empires. Reserve your ticket and see the exhibit that is sure to have everyone talking. Marvel at artifacts from civilization's greatest heights and learn how such formidable powers were brought low and usurped.
Notice that what that commercial says, that the art exhibit is about the rise and fall of empires. Very, very important there. What's this? Wanted for murder. Thomas Mother, aka Tommy, Lost Heaven Police Department.
Park up over there, Tom.
Where's my uniform?
This is all we got, pal. Besides, there's only room for 2 in the cab.
You can ride in the back. Sure you keep your head down or this whole thing is blown.
Forget about it. I know when to keep my head down.
Make you say that to all the girls.
Come on.
Well.
Let's get moving.
All right. Jesus Christ.
So this is a federal customs building.
What the hell do you think? What's the plan when we get to the impound?
I don't know. We look for crates that came from Cameroon or something. The cigar place.
You know how big the impound is?
Relax. It'll be empty this time of night. We'll have the run of the place.
A federal building, stealing something from a federal building, committing a crime like this would be charged a federal crime, put in federal courts.
Crap. Yeah. Pete, you got the papers?
The dash.
What was that?
What was what?
What?
Here you go, pal.
All right, go through. Busy night tonight. Might not find a spot.
Hear that? There's gonna be guys everywhere.
It'll be fine. We just gotta think on our feet.
Thinking on my feet is my worst thing, Sam. You know that.
What kind of time do you guys call this? We need to have gone through these shipments by sunup.
Yeah. Sorry, we couldn't find our papers. But we found them again.
Just show us what to do, pal. We're new.
We're all new, buddy. It's just that some of us know what time we gotta clock in. Come with me.
Okay, Tom, looks like it's on you. Get into the warehouse and find a cigar crate that's hiding the diamonds.
Okay.
They keep records on everything here, so search their files. You're looking for Cameroon cigars that came in on a boat called the Bohemia. Ship docked on Tuesday, 23rd. Got that?
Yeah.
Don't get caught. Don't get seen. Come find us when you're done.
Fancy got guys working overtime tonight.
Look for something.
Where are we gonna get through all these crates? Not even in a week.
So you get paid for a week. Quit complaining.
I think we got company.
Crap. Okay, ooh, that was close. I literally hit the button to stealth take him down, but it just punched him. Hear that? That the feds know that there's something suspicious about this shipment. U.S. Customs Border Protection. Customs search note. Howie, I took a cigar crate out of the warehouse. I have a hunch some of the Cameroons we impounded when the Bohemia docked might be hiding what we're looking for. When you come in, get into the warehouse and check the rest of the boxes. See you in the morning. Good luck.
Huh. This'll help.
Come on, fellas, let's speed this up. Once we're done with the small crates, we start cracking open the big ones next door.
Money's good. Boy, these feds are assholes. Must have been through 100 boxes already.
This guy's a, yeah. Looks like a marshal. Okay. Okay, U.S. Customs Border Protection. List of shipments. Empire Bay Dream. Rum, untaxed, storage A1. The Nell, unknown machinery, storage B2. The Bohemia, cigars, untaxed, storage D2. Forget Me Not, obscene material, storage A2, C2, B1. Havana King, rum, untaxed, storage D1. Okay, so the Bohemia cigar, storage D2.
Interesting.
None of this is any use.
Orders from FBI, urgent. We have become aware of unknown and high-value contraband currently passing through the Lost Heaven Federal Customs impound facility. It is vital that you conduct a search through all impounded goods immediately. Time is short. Failure to uncover the illicit materials could result in failed prosecutions here at Empire Bay. So that's what basically happened, is that the ship came into Empire Bay, and then the stuff got moved over to, was being transported to Lost Heaven. So it came in on a ship, and Lost Heaven is supposed to be Chicago. Empire Bay is supposed to be New York.
Nothing.
Okay. There's gonna be another collectible around here somewhere. Those guys over there are federal agents. Okay.
Can't remember the last time I saw any action.
Okay, so I found the collectible, guys. I was running around trying to figure out where it was because I know it was really important. But this here, this is probably the most important newspaper in the game, historically wise. And that's actually a real picture of Hitler. That is a real life picture of him. Nazi demands met in Munich. Lost Heaven Courier. September 30th, 1938. Nazi demands met in Munich. Adolf Hitler, Führer of Germany, was today granted the right to annex the Sudeten area of Czechoslovakia in an agreement made in Munich. Italian, British, and French leaders were signatories to the accord, with occupation expected to be complete within 10 days. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain described the agreement as peace in our time. The Czechoslovak government was not in attendance and expected any agreement to be at the expense of their nation. This right here, people, think about this. Look at when this is. September 30th, 1938. 1 year after this, September 1st, 1939, World War II would start. This, let me explain the backstory behind what's going on. And the thing is, the people living in this time period, we had no idea that there was going to be this giant, large-scale war that was just going to happen within a year. People thought that there would never be another world war after World War I. World War I was called the war to end all wars. That's what people thought. People thought it was the last major war that would ever happen on a grand scale. But that's not true. Now, about this, for me to talk about this, I gotta go back even before this. Also, if you want to know how the full detail on how Hitler came to power, you can watch my video, The End of Nazi Germany, Call of Duty World at War. It's like the final mission of World at War. I did it last year when Reznov and Dmitry take the Reichstag, when the Soviets fully take the Reichstag and Berlin just collapses. I actually explain a lot of, history of Nazi Germany and World War II, as well as Imperial Japan in that playthrough. So if you like that history, I'll also have that linked at the end if you want to check that out. But about this, basically to sum it up, how did the Nazis come to power? How did this happen? By this time, Nazi Germany was a full dictatorship. And Führer, what Führer basically means, it means like leader in German, and it means like specifically reference to Hitler. It's like an authoritarian leader. That's what it is. And Italy had the exact same thing. In Italy, it was called the Duce, which Duce basically meant the leader, and that was towards Benito Mussolini. Now, Germany became a full-on dictatorship in late 1933. That is when it became a dictatorship. So Germany's already been a dictatorship 5 years at this point. But how did Hitler come to power? How did the Nazis come to power in the 30s? The Depression actually helped the Nazis. It helped them greatly come to power because what happened was Germany was an economic ruin after World War I. They had insane inflation. The inflation in Germany was so bad, it cost like thousands of marks just to buy a loaf of bread. And people had so much money that they were actually burning the money in the winter just to stay warm. That's how bad inflation was. And so you have people like, Mussolini and people like Hitler that come to power in these really bad times. Mussolini came to power in the 20s on his march to Rome, but you have people that look towards these leaders, these authoritarian leaders, these extremists, when they're in extreme situations, like in the Great Depression. Now, Hitler, the backstory behind Hitler is Hitler was originally from Austria. He was a corporal in World War I, and Hitler was a raging ultra-nationalist even when he was younger. So even when he was in World War I, when he was a young guy, he was a very, raging ultra-nationalist, really crazy person, bad person, not a nice man overall. He was absolutely obsessed with the Iron Cross. He got the Iron Cross in World War I, I think, for delivering messages during in a battle, going from battle to battle, delivering messages. But anyways, about it is during after World War I, when Germany, it wasn't the Imperial Germany anymore. It was now the Weimar Republic. Hitler was still in the military, and the military had him actually go to spy on this political party, and the political party was called the German Workers' Party. And the German Workers' Party was a far-right, extremist party, a very ultra-nationalist. It was basically the predecessor to the Nazi Party. Now, Hitler infiltrated this party, but Hitler actually liked a lot of the ideas from this party and actually ended up taking over the party himself. And it ended up being changed later on to the Nazi Party. Now, what is Nazi short for? Nazi is short for National Socialist German Workers' Party, and that is basically where the party had formed at that point. So Hitler eventually got full control of the party. Now, Hitler actually tried to overthrow the government in the 20s in the beer hall push, where he got a bunch of generals and military officers on his side, but it failed, and he ended up getting arrested. He only served a few years in prison, and the prison was very luxurious. So it was a lot of corruption, is that they liked him, even though he was in prison. He was kept in very luxurious conditions in those prisons. And that's where he basically wrote his, book, Mein Kampf, My Fight, what that means in German. Now, when Hitler was released from prison, he went back into politics, and he was the head of the Nazi Party. Now, when Hitler went into politics, the Nazis had some initial electoral success. Now, here's the big debate. This is what historians debate on. Historians debate on whether Hitler was elected, or was he elected, or was he not elected. It's kind of complicated to explain. It's basically both. He was elected and he wasn't elected. How did that happen exactly? The Nazi Party, they had gotten a ton of seats in the German parliament, where they basically had about a third of the seats. So it was like close to a third. And that third, that them controlling like about 33% of the seats, they could not pass any kind of legislation. But what they could do is they could basically stop any legislation from being passed, just because of their veto, because they have so many seats in the parliament. So while they couldn't get their laws passed, they could basically veto anything they wanted. And Germany was in the Depression at this point, and stuff needed to be done. And they just basically kept vetoing it, not letting anything get done. And what ended up happening was the Reichstag, the German parliament building, ended up getting burnt down. Now, the Germans blamed it on a Dutch communist, but to this day, people think that the guy was a scapegoat. They don't think that he actually did it. There's a lot of speculation that Nazis were actually the ones who actually burnt down the Reichstag in order to basically gain political power, and they were blaming the government, saying that the government is weak. This happened because they weren't doing enough about it. Communists were infiltrating Germany. Germany did have actually a small civil war in Bavaria, where it was a bunch of communists who had staged a revolt against the German government, and the Nazis had used that later on to say that communists were infiltrating Germany further, and they were saying that they are the solution. So Hitler ended up becoming more powerful. Paul von Hindenburg, he was a famous World War I general. He was the president of Germany at this time. Now, he tried to negotiate with Hitler on getting stuff done in the government. Hitler was just uncompromising. Hitler was basically, it's my way or the highway. If you want, these problems to end, if you want the Nazi Party to cooperate with you, make me prime minister, make me chancellor. And Hindenburg approved. Hindenburg made Hitler chancellor, and Hindenburg didn't really survive for very long. He survived for less than a year after Hitler became chancellor. Now, when Hitler became chancellor, how did the Nazis end up, turning Germany into a dictatorship? What Hitler did was he passed the Enabling Act. And the Enabling Act, what that was, is it was basically a law that said that the German chancellor can veto and pass any kind of legislation without the approval of Parliament. So he can pass any kind of laws without needing Parliament. So no matter how little the seats the Nazi Party controls, the Chancellor has all the power. So that law basically turned Germany into a dictatorship overnight. And then what happened was, because Parliament couldn't oppose him, the Chancellor could basically pass any kind of law he wanted. He basically outlawed all German political parties. I think it was the Christian Democrats. I think that's what they were called. He outlawed the Social Democrats also, and then there was also another party. I forget the name of them, but he outlawed them. Also outlawed the German Communist Party, and basically was claiming all of these parties are a danger to Germany, and that the National Socialists are the only party that is for Germany, for the German worker, and basically had cemented full control at this point. Now, were the Nazis a socialist party? That's basically the big argument. Now, there's a lot of historians argue about this, and what I'm going to say at this point is pretty much a little bit of my opinion too. But I do think that the Nazis were a socialist party. They weren't socialist in left-wing terms. The Nazis were a far-right party, but a lot of their economic policies were very socialist. They controlled the market. They very much controlled the market. They regulated banks, regulated corporations. Germany was very much a controlled economy. The Nazis were not pro-capitalist. There's this big misconception in history where people think that the Nazis were a pro-free market, pro-capitalist party, but it's not true. The difference between, for example, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, if you compare the two economies, the Soviet Union had no free market whatsoever, no, private enterprise, nothing. Everything was state-controlled, state state operated. There was nothing. You could not make a profit in the Soviet Union. Nazi Germany was different. Where Nazi Germany, you could make money, you could make a profit, but it was highly regulated and highly controlled by the government. So in the Soviet Union, there was no businesses, but in Nazi Germany, businesses did exist. However, the purpose of the businesses was to benefit the government. It was supposed to benefit the state. So the state controlled these businesses. The businesses were allowed to make money, but they were meant to benefit the state, to make the state profitable. That is basically how it was. So these corporations were, controlled by the Nazi Germany, and the Nazis basically do anything that they wanted these corporations. Any policy that they wanted, these corporations basically had to follow. So that's what it was, is that the Nazi Germany did have a little bit more of a freer economy, but a lot there it was not a capitalist system. People think that it was a capitalist system. It was not a capitalist system. It was very much a controlled market economy. So they were socialists, but in their economic terms. But on the other hand, they were also far right. They were not left wing. So people say the Nazis were left wing. They weren't left wing. They were far right, but they weren't. I would also say that they were socialists at the same time too. What the Nazis ultimately are, what the Nazi political party is it's basically socialism mixed with white supremacy. That's the best way that I can describe it. That is pretty much what it is. It's the worst of the right wing. White supremacy. Extreme racism, and then also left wing, socialism, basically put together in just one party. That's what it was. It was an authoritarian, ultra nationalist, party. But anyways, moving on to this now. This newspaper here and what exactly is going on here. So Hitler started being extremely aggressive with a lot of the countries when he became Führer. Now, one of the first things that Hitler did was he militarized the Rhineland, and he did this in 1936. Now, under the Treaty of Versailles, the Treaty of Versailles was actually the treaty in which Germany was surrendered after World War I. It was the terms. The Rhineland, it's basically Western Germany, past the Rhine River. It's right on the border with France and Belgium. They were not allowed to have any soldiers there. Hitler actually built military bases there. He put soldiers there, violated the first part of the Treaty of Versailles, violated in 1936. And Britain and France did nothing about it. Nothing whatsoever about it. Now, Hitler argued, this is our country, this is Germany, we have the right to put military bases, here in the Rhineland if we want to. And what happened is, because of that, a lot of people looked the other way, saying, okay, it's Germany, if they want to build military bases there, then they'll build military bases there. But what happened was, then 2 years later after that, in March of 1938, the Nazis actually invaded and annexed Austria. They took over Austria. And what happened was, when the Nazis came into Austria with basically no resistance. There was very little to almost no resistance. And they did a referendum. And the referendum, it claimed 99.7% of people voted to join Germany, which is just ridiculous. Now, here's the thing. The majority of Austrians did want to join Germany at that point. That is true. They did want Germany to annex them, but it was not 99.7%. You can't get 99% of people to agree on anything. So this idea that it was 99.7%, it was a rigged referendum, it was BS. It probably was somewhere like 60-70% probably of the population probably wanted to join with Germany, somewhere around there. It's probably majority, but it was not like 99.7%. It was rigged. And what happened was a lot of countries in Europe were scared when Germany actually annexed Austria. Now, when Germany annexed Austria, Hitler had claimed the German Reich is complete. We have no more territorial ambitions in Europe. That is literally what he said. The Reich is complete. We have no more territorial ambitions in Europe. And what ended up happening is after that, you have half a year later, September 1938, when this happens. And Hitler had claimed the Sudetenland. Now, the Sudetenland was a part of Czechoslovakia, and it's part of Czechoslovakia, part of the Czech Republic today. But it was a part of Czechoslovakia that had a huge German-speaking population. And Hitler had basically made up all of this propaganda, all of these lies, where he was basically saying, that the Czechs are attacking the Germans there, the German minority. I have to go in, I have to protect them, I have to save them, and this other stuff. And he went to Britain and France. And Britain and France were basically just so scared of a potential world war happening that what they did was they did the Munich Conference. And that's exactly what this is right here, is they gave the Sudetenland to Hitler. And do you know what the really crazy thing about this is? Czechoslovakia wasn't even invited to that. So you had Britain and France and Germany sign a deal that Germany was allowed to annex the Sudetenland, and Czechoslovakia wasn't even invited. So imagine that. Imagine that you're Czech, and you have these foreign countries that are basically signing a deal to annex part of your country, part of your land, and you're not even invited. And Chamberlain, who was the prime minister of Britain at the time, said that it was necessary. It was necessary to avoid war of Hitler. And when Hitler got the Sudetenland, Chamberlain was all like, "Oh yes, it is peace in our time." Just like the newspaper said, there will be no, war, nothing will happen. Hitler is done. And Hitler, when he got the Sudetenland, he said it the second time, the exact same thing he said when he annexed Austria. He said, "That's it. I am not going to make any kind of territorial claims anymore. This is my last final territorial claim." That is what Hitler said. And then what ends up happening is half a year later, March 1939, Hitler summons the president of the Czechoslovakia, Emil Hop something, I forget his full name. I'll have his name down below. But he summons the president of Czechoslovakia to Berlin. Now, when he summons the president of Czechoslovakia to Berlin, he gets him and also Ribbentrop in a room together. So Hitler, Ribbentrop, and are in a room with the Czechoslovakian president. Now, Ribbentrop, he was the foreign minister of Nazi Germany, and Ribbentrop was actually the same guy who signed the German Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, where the Soviet Union agreed to divide up Poland with Germany. So what happened is, when they got the Czech president in that room, they told him, what Hitler and Ribbentrop said to him is, they said to him, "You are going to let us, Germany, occupy the rest of your country. You're going to let us occupy the rest of Czechoslovakia. You're going to let us take over the rest of your country. If you don't, then we are going to send the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, into Czechoslovakia, and we are going to bomb your cities, level your cities. Nothing will be left. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of your civilians will be dead." And what happened is, when the Czech president heard that, he actually collapsed to the floor. He fainted. Just sweaty. He was so sweaty, just so nervous. And he signed a deal. He signed a deal that let Germany take over the rest of Czechoslovakia. What happened was, Slovakia also seceded, and Slovakia created their own country, but Slovakia was basically a fascist puppet state of Nazi Germany. The fascists that were in Slovakia, they were basically supported and funded by the Nazis, and it was just another way to break up Czechoslovakia. And here's the thing is, why did the Czech president sign that deal, letting Germany take over the rest of his country? The reason he signed that deal is because he had no choice. There was nothing else that he could have done. Nobody was going to help Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia was at Germany's mercy, basically, at that point. And he knew that if Czechoslovakia fought and resisted Germany, they were going to lose. The Czech military had no chance against the German military. And so thousands of civilians would have died, so he basically said, "I have no choice, I have to sign it." So some people call the Czech president a coward, saying he should have fought, but there was nothing else he could have done. Nobody was going to help. He was thinking about his people. He was thinking, "I don't want my people to die. I don't want my cities to be bombed. There's nothing we can do. We have to surrender." So some people say the Czech president was a coward, but really, is there anything else he could have done? And what the worst part about this is? France had a military alliance with Czechoslovakia. They did. But even though France had a military alliance with Czechoslovakia, they did nothing to help. Nothing. They just let Germany take over Czechoslovakia. And and here's the thing is, when Germany took over Czechoslovakia, do you know what they renamed it? Do you know what they renamed the part, the Czech part that they took over? They renamed it the Protectorate of Bohemia. That's what it was called. The Protectorate of Bohemia. Now, what is the ship called in this game? The ship that actually brings in the stuff. Bohemia. Now, why is it called that way? It's symbolism. The developer's making symbolism here, because it's some bad stuff is going to happen. So the newspaper, reading this newspaper, World War II is going to start. Some really bad things are going to happen. And it starts here with Czechoslovakia, is where the really bad things started happening. And then the ship is coming in. The ship is also called Bohemia. It's symbolism that something really bad is going to happen in the story. There's something is going to blow up. Something's going to explode. Something really, really bad is going to happen. And like in this here, it's foreshadowing World War II. And so that's basically, the developers put a lot of these things in. I've noticed a lot of these historical things that they are basically putting in. But that's basically it. Czechoslovakia got occupied by Nazi Germany, and you had this guy called Heydrich who was put in charge of Czechoslovakia. Now, about Heydrich, you don't really hear much about Heydrich in World War II because he died early on in the war. He died in 1942. But Heydrich was one of the most evil men that ever existed on the planet. He was pure evil. Heydrich was a monster. Heydrich was actually one of the people who drew up plans for the Holocaust. Heydrich was the one who drew up plans for concentration camps plans for, mass extermination of peoples. Heydrich was just an evil, horrible monster. The Czechs got revenge on him, though. The British sent Czech resistance fighters, paratroopers, into Czechoslovakia, and they actually threw grenades at Heydrich's car, and Heydrich actually got hit by shrapnel. He died like a day later in the hospital. Those Czech resistance members, I think they killed themselves to avoid capture, because it would have been really brutal if the Nazis had caught them. And what the Nazis did in retaliation is they went to several Czech villages and slaughtered thousands of people. And that's what the Nazis would do, is that whenever a resistance fighter would kill a German, is that they would round up hundreds of random innocent civilians and just gun them down. They did this also in Poland. Now, here's one thing that people don't understand about history in this regard, is the German occupation of Austria and the German occupation of Czechoslovakia is completely different. People think it's the same thing. People say, oh, the Austrians were being oppressed in the same way that the Czechs were. No, they weren't. Not to that degree. While you can make the argument that the Austrians were also a victim, that they had, been forcibly annexed by Germany, Austria had mass collaboration. There was so many people that were collaborating with the Nazis. When the Nazis came in, there was people thousands of people on the streets with Nazi flags just welcoming Hitler. So Austria had so much collaboration, and there was hundreds of thousands of Austrians that were actually in the Nazi military. And not only that, 40% of all concentration camp guards were actually Austrian. So people don't know stuff like that. So the Austrians had collaborated heavily with the Germans. Austria was a victim in a way that it did get occupied, sure, but the country was treated very differently than Czechoslovakia. And the reason for this is because the Nazis saw the Austrians as Germans. Hitler was an Austrian himself. He was from Austria. So when the Nazis came in and occupied Austria, Austrians were basically treated the same way as Germans. They were treated equally to Germans. They were seen as Germans. They were seen as a Germanic people. Hitler, on the other hand, hated Slavs. He despised Slavic people. He thought that Slavs were inferior. And when it came to the Czechs were treated like second-class citizens. They were oppressed. They were, mass murdered. They were killed. They were heavily discriminated against. They were Germanicized. So they were forced to learn German. They were forced to get rid of their culture. If they weren't, they would be murdered. So the Czechs had suffered such oppression from the Germans. So that's one thing I don't like, is I don't like when people compare Austria's occupation to Czechoslovakia's occupation, because Czechoslovakia was the first major victim during World War II. A lot of Nazis were Austrians. A lot of Nazis had collaborated a lot of Austrians had collaborated with the Germans. Not every Austrian obviously was a Nazi, but the point that I'm getting at is that when people try to compare Austria and say it was victimized the same way that Czechoslovakia was, no, it wasn't. Not to the same degree. But anyways, moving on here. I know I'm talking a lot of history here. Moving on here, what ended up happening is Hitler then, in that exact same year, he actually requests Memel from Lithuania. So Memel was a port city. And about Memel is actually called Klaipėda today, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's in Lithuania. And Hitler had claimed, again, this is the last territorial demand I'm making. He said it again. This is the last territorial demand that I'm making. Give me, Memel. And Lithuania just gave it to him. They gave it to him in an ultimatum because he threatened to invade the rest of Lithuania. Lithuania just gave it to him. And so, again, notice it. Hitler takes over Austria, says, this is my final territorial, claim. I have no more territorial claims after this. Takes over Sudetenland. This is my final territorial claim. I have no more territorial claims after this. When he took over the rest of Czechoslovakia, he claimed he had to do that because there was anarchy in Czechoslovakia, and that the Czechs were plotting against the Germans and blah blah blah, all this propaganda, and he had to occupy this. And then when he took over Memel, he said it again. This is my final territorial claim. So how many final territorial claims is this guy going to have? This guy's not going to stop. And that's basically when Britain and France lost it with Hitler, and they were not going to put up with Hitler's nonsense anymore at that point. They knew that it was not going to stop. He was just going to keep taking stuff over and over again and constantly keep saying, this was my final territorial claim, this is the final thing, but he was just not going to stop. You cannot reason with somebody like Hitler. He's not going to stop. Hitler basically thought that he was king, he thought that he was God, he thought that he could basically do whatever he wants. Kind of similar how, Salieri here is Salieri thinks that basically he can do whatever he wants. That's why this newspaper is here. It's kind of foreshadowing that and foreshadowing the downfall of the Salieri crime family. But then what happens is, half a year after Hitler took Memel, what did Hitler do? Hitler requested Danzig. And Danzig was a port city. It was a neutral city. It was a city-state, which means it was its own country as a city. And it's called Gdańsk today in Poland. Now, Hitler had claimed that Danzig was a historical German city, and he claimed that that the Germans were being oppressed, the German minority was being oppressed in Danzig, but actually, the Germans were actually the majority in Danzig. Germans were actually like 60% of the population, where 40% of the population were Poles. So Hitler had made these false claims that the Germans in Danzig or Gdańsk, that they were getting, attacked, that Polish people were attacking them, beating them up, but it's actually the other way around. The Nazi party had actually won a lot of seats in their own election in Danzig. And what happened was you had mobs of Nazis in Danzig that were actually going around beating up Polish people, and they were beating up Polish postal workers, torching Polish postal buildings. What they were also doing is they were shutting down Polish schools. So schools that would teach kids how to speak Polish, they were shutting those down. So it's actually the other way around. It wasn't the Germans who were being discriminated in Danzig, it was actually the Poles who were being discriminated and attacked in Danzig, but Hitler had used his propaganda, and the Germans were actually, Nazi Germany was sending in a lot of trucks, so both Germany and Poland had like port access to Danzig, and they were both would trade goods and send goods through it. Now, Nazi Germany had started sending a ton of these trucks, these random trucks into Danzig, and Poland had basically said, we want to check these trucks, we want to see what's in these trucks. And Germany had basically said, oh, this is proof that Poland is against us, Poland, wants a war with us, Poland wants conflict with us. But Poland said, no, we have to check that these trucks are not smuggling weapons into Danzig. And those weapons were arming the Nazi militias that were actually in Danzig. And Germany denied letting them search the trucks, and yes, the trucks were carrying weapons. That's how those militias got weapons. When Germany started invaded Poland in September 1st, 1939, that's how those German militias that were from Danzig, that's how they were armed, is that those trucks that came in, the Nazis had basically smuggled in a ton of weapons and given it to those militias who were attacking people. And the reason that the Polish post officers were armed in Danzig was because so many Polish post offices had been burned down and attacked by these radical Nazis that were constantly attacking Polish people. That's actually what happened at the Danzig post office, that the post officers there were resisting. When the Nazis invaded, they resisted, they held out for several hours. The Nazis could not take the building. They could not. They suffered heavy casualties, and eventually what the Nazis started to do is they tried to burn them out, and some of the officers, the post officers, ended up escaping. But others of the post officers ended up getting captured, and all of the ones that got captured, they got executed. Every single one of them got killed. That battle is actually being added to Hell Let Loose. If you play Hell Let Loose, that battle of the post office is actually being added to Hell Let Loose, I think later in this year. But that was, and Nazi Germany argued that they had the right to execute all the post office workers because they were illegal combatants, that they were not soldiers, but they were MPs, military officers that were working in a post office. They had the right to be treated as POWs, but that was not it for the Nazis didn't care. And what happened was when France and Britain declared war on Germany, when Germany invaded Poland, Hitler was freaking out because Ribbentrop told him that Britain and France would not do anything. But Britain and France basically had their patience run out, and they knew that it was pretty much that Germany was not going to stop at this point. Germany had more territorial ambitions, and they were just going to keep going and going and going. And Hitler was raging. When France and Britain declared war, he was raging. He thought that it was going to be the end of his conquest in Poland. But Britain and France did nothing at the start. Poland was fighting because they were holding out, hoping that Britain and France would show up, holding enough time for them to show up, but they didn't. And France actually sent some troops into Germany in the Saar offensive in September 1939, but then even though they went a few miles in, they actually ended up pulling out. And Alfred Jodl, one of Hitler's top generals after the war, actually said that if the French had been going, they could have actually reached Berlin because they were completely unprepared for that, because the German army was actually in 90% of the German army was in Poland at the time. So if Britain and France had both invaded Germany from the west, they could have actually maybe turned the tides even at that point. But basically they sat there, did very little to nothing when Poland had gotten conquered, and then the Soviets invaded 2 weeks later after Germany. Britain and France refused to declare war on them, claiming that it was only the alliance was only against Germany. And then in April 1940, Germany invades Norway, takes over Denmark, takes over the Netherlands, and then in May 1940 they end up taking over France, and then Britain also gets pushed back. Their soldiers retreat to Britain. So they were just too slow on acting, and that is, if they had acted in September 39 quicker, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But they didn't expect this massive German offensive that ended up happening, and then the rest of it is history of what happened in World War II. But the thing is, the public was not expecting this at the time. They were not thinking that there was going to be this giant war that was going to basically happen in that this giant war was going to happen in Europe. They thought that Hitler was going to stop there after the Sudetenland, that he wasn't going to keep going, but Hitler kept getting greedier and greedier and greedier, and he just wanted more and more and more and more and didn't know how to stop. And this is why I personally like Truman more than Roosevelt, because Roosevelt even though he led us during World War II, Roosevelt, in my opinion, was he appeased Stalin too much. He was too friendly to Stalin. When Truman took power, Truman was not going to let Stalin have anything. Stalin wanted to occupy Japan. Stalin wanted to split up Japan the same way that Germany was split up, and Truman said, "Hell no, you are not occupying Japan." And because of that, the U.S. actually saved Japan. We saved Japan from having a North and South Korea situation, because if the Soviets had occupied Hokkaido, they would have turned it into a communist state, and then they would have started a war with southern Japan. So Japan would have been broken up just like North and South Korea, but Truman didn't let that happen. So that's, Truman, that's why in my book, Truman was probably the best president we had in that time period. But Truman did not take Stalin's BS. Stalin wanted Berlin. He wanted all of Berlin, so East and West Berlin was divided at the end of the war. And Stalin had told Truman, "Give me all of Berlin and I'll stop." The exact same thing that Hitler said, "Give me this and I'll stop." And Truman said, "Nope, we're not going to do this appeasement nonsense. We're not doing this again." And what Truman did was he had sent in planes to drop food for the civilians, because Stalin had actually cut off the roads. And the planes that were coming in, even though they were cut off by roads, were actually bringing in more food than the Soviets were bringing in by both plane and vehicles, and embarrassed the Soviets. And eventually Stalin pulled out. So that's it. Is that that's why the Allies learned after World War II, you cannot appease these people. You cannot appease these crazy, insane dictators. They appeased Hitler, and you look at what happened. And then they tried to appease Stalin, but they didn't. They didn't in the end. Stalin wanted to be appeased, and they didn't give in to it. But that's basically it. I hope you guys didn't get bored by the history. But basically, this newspaper is foreshadowing a lot of really bad things that are going to happen. A lot of really, really bad things that are going to happen. Like I said, the ship is called the Bohemia that brought in the cigars. And that ship, and when Hitler took over Czechoslovakia, it was called the Protectorate of Bohemia. It's basically a symbolism that some really bad things are going to happen. Okay.
Ah, crap. Place is huge.
Okay, boys, check each crate, then we start cracking them open.
There's hundreds.
Then lucky you, having all night to search them.
Cigars impound, known as ship vehicle, the Bohemia ship. Cargo, cigars and tobacco products. Former destination, Atlantic Import-Export Co. Holbrook. Reason for impound, harbor master suspicion. Untaxed goods. Date of arrival, September 23rd, 1938. Warehouse storage area, D2.
Huh. This'll help.
Okay, that's all the federal agents taken down. B2.
turning up squat.
A2. I know these are the wrong ones, but seeing if there's anything in them.
No cigars, no diamonds.
D1.
Gotta be finding it soon.
Okay. This is gonna be D2 then here.
Here either. Nothing in here. Ah, jeez, give me a break. Found them.
There he is.
You sure we're getting what we came for?
We're aces, boys.
Good. Let's get them loaded and get out of here. That's the last of them.
Let's dangle. I'm not riding in the back again.
You're a better wheelman anyway. Just don't drive us into the bay.
Shit. You hear that? Okay, Tom, gun it.
Let's go! Let's go! Jesus, Tom, it ain't comfortable back here, huh?
Through the gates!
There's been a break-in at the Special Customs impound. Suspects are escaping in a customs truck. I want roadblocks everywhere.
Every cop in town's gonna be on their way.
So let's get out of sight. Fast as you can, Tom.
Avoid the roadblocks, okay.
Road's closed up ahead.
Find another way. If we get seen, they'll raise hell.
Watch out.
Hello? Yeah, we got trouble.
Another checkpoint. Give it a wide berth, Tommy. Another checkpoint. Give it a wide berth, Tommy.
Anyone seen the truck? Call in with news, fellas.
Damn, okay. Gotta get out of here.
Anyone seen the truck? Call in with news, fellas.
Just up ahead. Find
Damn, how do I...
another way. If we get seen, they'll raise hell.
See here if I can... I might be able to cut through here.
Anyone seen the truck? Call in with news, fellas.
Okay, almost out.
Feels like we left them behind. Yeah, hopefully.
Where the hell were you back in the compound? We were about to give up.
The place was a maze.
I was talking
It's a
history.
miracle I found the crates.
Next time we pull something like this, we need a better plan. More information.
A better plan? He got the ice, didn't he?
Yeah, but next time...
Well, next time what? We run it all through you? Scores like these are your best thing?
Guys, I'm trying to drive here. Let's get back to the warehouse without LHPD on our tail, huh?
Sure.
We got the diamonds, the boss will be happy. That's all that matters right now.
Those rocks had better be as big as the goddamn ridge for all the crates we had to move tonight.
Oh, I got a big drive to Salieri's warehouse here.
What's with you today, Tom?
Man, this truck is so slow. This is worse than a post-op van on GTA. So now this is probably the most shocking part of the game, or second shocking most part of the game.
Yeah, a couple of these crates are shot to shit, though.
How bad is it?
It's the worst of it.
It don't look too good. Don's gonna be pissed if we ruined any of the cigars.
What the hell?
Christ. It's dope.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Where are the diamonds?
There ain't any. This is the real score.
No. No. Don said we would get diamonds.
You can open every box. You're not gonna find them.
We put our fucking necks out on the line for this shit.
Looks like it.
You better cool off, Paulie. The Don's coming.
Shit. We don't say nothing about this to the Don. Okay, if he wanted us to know, he would have told us.
He should have come clean.
Sure, but for now, we keep our trap shut. Right?
Yeah, okay.
This is why I hate Salieri so much.
I ain't saying nothing.
I hate Salieri so much.
Boys,
One of the crates got a little banged up, is all.
all right? Oh, doesn't look too bad.
Might have lost a few cigars, but otherwise the merchandise should be okay, boss.
Besides, ain't diamonds supposed to be the hardest thing around?
Outside of my cock, maybe.
Well, bravo, boys, bravo. You all got a well-deserved bonus coming your way.
You want us to unload the crates into the warehouse?
No, you can take a powder. These morons are gonna take it from here.
You sure?
What'd I say?
Okay, boss. We'll dangle.
Sam, give me a lift back to the bar.
Sure, boss. You guys coming?
Nah, we'll take the train.
Okay. See you later.
God damn it. I just about had it, Tommy. We got busted with all that smack. We would have died in prison.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do?
I already told you.
So, about this, so for people that are confused why Tommy and Paulie are so pissed about this, in the original version of this game, the Don did not tell you about any diamonds. He just told you were stealing cigars. But you nearly die, and then you find out that there's diamonds in the cigars. In the definitive edition, they changed it where the Don tells you there's diamonds, but there really isn't diamonds. Instead, it's drugs, heroin. That's what's in there. Now, why is this so much, worse? The reason that this is so much worse, if they got caught with that heroin, they would have been life in prison. 100%. Breaking into a federal building and then stealing drugs that got impounded, they would have, it would have been life in prison. 100% for something like that. And on top of that, think about all the damage that drugs do. It's just, diamonds, okay, some rich guy might buy it. He might sell it to some jewelry shop, maybe some pawn shops illegally. But drugs are on a whole nother level. Thousands of people are going to get addicted. People are going to basically become zombies. Lives are going to be ruined. People are going to overdose and die. And remember what Salieri said at the beginning of the game. He said, we have rules around here. No dope. No drugs. But then he does this bullshit. Excuse my language. So, some people got mad at the definitive edition for doing this, where they changed the diamonds with drugs, but I think it's perfect. I think that the developers wrote this story perfectly. They did change a lot of the things in the original that didn't really make sense, and they improved on it a lot. So this shows you Salieri's, what type of person that Salieri was. Now, the people are saying, did Salieri change? Or was he always a bad person? He was always a bad person, always a horrible person. Notice the big suit that he gets after Morello dies. He thinks that he's king. He thinks that he can do whatever he wants. That's what that newspaper was basically showing when, Hitler was taking, part of, the Sudetenland and then taking over the rest of Czechoslovakia. It was Hitler thinking that he can do whatever he wants, and it was foreshadowing World War II that was coming. And just like this here, it's foreshadowing that Salieri basically thinks that he can do whatever he wants, that the rules do not apply to him. He can do whatever he feels like doing. And that's what, Paulie and Tommy are so angry about that. And just think about it this way. Think about just how much Paulie and Tommy stuck their necks out for Salieri. And, Tommy almost died saving Salieri. Salieri would have died if it wasn't for Tommy. And he still lies to him about drugs, doesn't even tell him ahead of time about it. But I think that Sam knew about the drugs. That's what I think. I think he knew about it because Salieri said Sam will explain the plan. I think Sam knew about it.
The bank.
Yeah. I don't care what Sam says. I'm getting that score.
How much you figure?
You want in?
We're just talking.
I knew I could count on you, pal.
So which bank?
Grand Imperial. Their North Park meets downtown.
Yeah, been there. A while back.
Well, the security don't look tight. Easy getaway. Tellers who don't look like they put up a fight. Can't do it alone.
Maybe. I'm not moving black tar for the Don. Especially if he's not cutting us in. And, I don't know. I just never want to be in that street again.
What street?
On my knees. Watching some poor skirt burn just because she got in our way.
It was the wrong place and the wrong time. Just tough luck.
Seems there ain't no other kind with us.
I'm telling you, Tom, this is perfect. I wouldn't ask you to come in on this if I didn't think it was our ticket.
We'll see. I'm not signing up for the job until I see what's what. If I get pinched, Sarah's done with me.
That pinched means arrested. I wish they let you ride trains in this game. You only see it in the cutscene.
I get that. But think about what this could mean for them.
Watch it, buddy. You're treading into enemy territory without a map.
Yeah. I don't know what it's like for you going home to your wife and kid. But that's why I'm doing this. Who's gonna marry me? Nearly 40 years old and nothing to show for it but my rap sheet. But we do this, I get enough scratch to finally get out? Who knows?
You're not built for the domestic life, Paulie. 6 months in, you'll put a bullet in your brain out of boredom.
Christ. I'm ready to punch my ticket right now. We sit around for 6 months, just playing cards and busting balls, and I start to get lazy. Then everything blows up, and I gotta knock the rust off or I'm dead. One day I'm fighting to stay awake while the Don's telling us a story about the old days. One I've already heard 100 times, and the next day I'm getting shot at, trying to keep from shitting my pants. It's fucking wearing me out, Tommy.
You know what that old man, there's so much symbolism in that game. You know what that old man symbolizes? He sits right across from Paulie, and then Paulie just stands up. Paulie says, you know, I'm nearly 40 years old. I'm not married. I don't have a family. You know, Paulie is just depressed. He's suffering from depression. You can just tell from this. It's like a lot of people that suffer from depression, it's not direct. You don't see it like people are constantly... When people think of depression, they typically think of somebody who's constantly crying, somebody who's constantly upset. But sometimes, a lot of times people that are depressed, they don't show signs. It's not direct. You don't directly see it. But Paulie is clearly suffering from depression. And what that old man symbolizes is that's what Paulie is going to be. He's going to become an old man, no family, and he's going to die alone. And that's his worst nightmare.
So you're looking for the big one, though.
I know it's a snipe hunt. Every little mobster goes to bed dreaming about that last big score. But if we do this thing, I don't know. Might be just enough to get me a little pizzeria or something, you know?
Sure. But if we're doing this, we're waiting until things calm down.
Ah, you're already hooked, pal.
Maybe.
This is probably the longest part I've had because I talked so much history on this part here, but... Oh, okay. I'm gonna stop it right here.
Plan stays the...
So, I will wrap this up here, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this part. If you did, drop a like. Let me know what you think down below if you guys enjoyed the video. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.